you know.
Of course, yeah.
And nobody from that generation is around. So we just have a collection of information that passed on to us. So, you know, we have the plaque that was at Our Lady of Mount Carmel
I saw it coming
Church.
in, yeah.
You know, we were fortunate, well, Russell was instrumental in that, but we were fortunate to salvage that plaque. So we had that kind of refurbished a little bit. And then my mother had the flag, and so the flag is out there too, his you know, from his funeral.
Uh-huh.
And so then, you know, whatever other information, I know Danny had some information he couldn't locate, because he had, well, Uncle Frank, I guess, had some letters, you know, from the military, from the army when he was killed, and but you know, them trying to sell the house and everything, he can't figure out where they're at. Okay, so anyways, the news been kind of
the history nut.
he's like our historian. He probably knows more than all of us, right, Anthony?
He does.
And his wife is a Piunno, not him.
That's right, I'm an outlaw.
But anyways, so we'll get that, I just want to preface with that. So we
Sure.
just know, you know, we only know what's been passed on to us, and I think that's something I want to see.
Okay, well, let's start off, you're Frank and
Yeah,
your
my father was Joseph.
and your nephew?
Yeah, I would have been a nephew, my father would have been his brother. My
Got it.
father, Joe Piunno, was older than Mike, and, so I would have been Mike's nephew.
Okay, and this again is?
My name is Lou Lantine. I married into the Piunno family. My wife is Joanne, and Joanne would be Mike's niece.
Yeah. Joanne's father is Frank, which is another brother.
I mean, his youngest, but I can explain as far as how many children are in the family, make it a lot easier.
Yeah.
And that would be easier to know where we are and what information we may have gathered. Anthony?
Yeah, I'm Anthony Granito. My mother was Rose Piunno, Mike's sister, and
How do you spell your last name?
Granito.
Thank you. So how did this story of the plaque begin to, somebody found out that it was tearing the church down, and somebody knew the plaque was there, and take me from there.
Well, we all knew the plaque was there because we all, Tony, Anthony, Russell, we all grew up in that neighborhood. And so the plaque was there from as long as I can remember. And then as the church declined, then there was the reality that it was going to close and be sold. And so Russell kept an eye on that because there was a kind of a curator or something, Rose Cerniti, that, you know, she kind of took care of the church, and then she alerted Russell that it was going to close or whatever. And so we went and got our hands on the plaque, and but we actually had a small replica of the plaque made because one of the people on the plaque is Navarro, and his brother is he still alive?
I don't know.
Yeah, but anyways, he was still alive at the time, and I said, well, you should have the plaque because your brother's on and his brother was a Silver Star medalist, but he says, I don't have room. He had, in his basement, he had a memorial of stuff, but he said, there's no way I can, because if you saw the plaque, it's huge.
Yeah.
He said, there's no way I can fit it. So when we had Gino's Jewelers refurbish the plaque, because it was in 3 pieces, and we had them, you know, stabilize it and clean it up and everything. We had Gino's make a smaller replica, about, I think it was like 11/17 or something like that. And so he could have the plaque also. So he was ecstatic because he was actually in tears when he got it because, you know, he got a plaque that he could put in his basement that replicated this one. And then we've had this one Gosh, when did the church close, Russell?
I think in the late 60s.
Yeah. So anyways, and then when we moved here, because I had the flag, we had the flag then put in one of those, because my mother had it in a cedar chest for all those years. And so we put it in one of those.
Flags, plaques,
Yeah,
holder.
And it's out in the lobby too.
I missed that. I'll take a picture of that when we
But
leave.
that's what,
We were at the last mass together.
exactly, yeah,
Yeah,
right.
I can't remember what year that was.
yeah. That way, there was a whole group of us when the church closed that went to attend the last service there. And,
Still Father O'Donnell? Was
well, he
there?
was the pastor, but he's been passed away for a long time.
Yeah, was he there for the mass?
No, he was,
Was
yeah,
passed way before that.
yeah, he's been done. I don't know, I'm not even sure who did the mass, do you?
I don't recall.
I don't know, but I remember being there.
Yeah, I know, we all went to it, so.
And the Notre Dame nuns, weren't they,
Well,
Teaching at
first
the school?
First it was the Carmelite nuns.
they couldn't handle you with Dagos, huh?
Right. And they were the first ones that, because our aunt, Mike's sister, Camilla, was a Carmelite nun. And so she, adjacent to our neighborhood was Blue Rock. And the convent for the Carmelites was in Blue Rock. And they used to, iron the vestments for the priests. They used to prepare all the hosts and everything, and so she kind of got irked when they talked about the Notre Dames being at Mount Carmel. But the Notre Dames taught there at Mount Carmel. But really, my aunt's order was the one that
And what was
worked
her,
closely.
what was her name in the order?
Sister Camilla Piunno.
Got it, okay.
And she was the oldest girl, right? Or was your mother older?
No, Anna.
Oh, I'm sorry, Aunt Anna, I forgot, yeah.
If I
Yeah, why don't you go through the whole, you should know the whole family.
just to paint a better picture.
Mike has the copies of the letters.
Yeah.
Just email them to you.
Okay. A little history. Mike was the seventh of 8 children, okay? Father being Francisco Piunno and mother being Maria Giuseppe Rinaldi. Again, they had 8 children. Anna Marie was the oldest. Giuseppe Michael Piunno, he died at a very young age. He was only 4 years old. I believe there was a flu in the
1918, yeah,
18
World War I era.
Then there was Donato, which is Dan. Then Rose Marie, which is Anthony's mom. Joseph Anthony, which would be Frank's father. Then Carmela Marie Piunno, which is sister Aunt Carrie, they call her Aunt Carrie, Sister Camaro. And then Michael Joseph, who we're talking about today. And then my father-in-law would be Frank Joseph Piunno. That's the order that they all were. So again, there was 8 children out of the family, and Michael was the second youngest. I do have copies of letters that was sent from Anthony's mother. He was kind enough to forward them to me. His mother was Rose, so a lot of the letters that I have is Michael writing to Rose. And I also have I do a lot with family genealogy, and I did some research, and I have some documentation of his Army activities, his, let's see what I got here. His application when he got, when you register for World War II, I have, which is nice because you see it in their handwriting.
Yes, I've seen them.
Which is
yeah.
important to me, is important. Also the application for their headstone. I have a report of the casualty.
What unit was he in France?
What year?
No, what unit was he in?
Anthony, yeah, he was in the Army.
Right.
not having any military experience, I'm not familiar with some of the terminology, but they had division, and then they have infantry.
89th Infantry Division, and what was it, it was a 350,
345 or
354.
354. So this is,
Here, it's in this one.
this is interesting.
And where in France was he killed?
It wasn't France, it was Germany.
Oh,
So it was called the Rhine, Rhine crossing, and
Oh.
that's in Germany. I haven't seen this, but it looks like it's pretty informative about what took place on March 24th, 1945.
Because they were moving.
Here,
Yeah, 'cause
that's
they
your
were
turn.
moving. I think they arrived in France and then they moved to Germany,
Okay.
from what I can tell.
and that was not the Rhine River, R-H-I-N-E, or was it the Rhine River?
R-H-I-N-E, right.
Yeah, okay, because I think
Right.
it's spelled differently.
The Rhone is in France, and I think it was just, may have been a typing error in it.
Is that the brochure from Benedictine? Or, yeah.
I have that here. Yeah. When I just recently looked at that, I thought, wait, I know he arrived in France, but they moved into Germany.
Every year, Benedictine High School has a fundraiser, and it's called
Festa.
the Festa.
We were at the last one.
Yeah,
For the Italian heritage.
yeah, I've been there. Yeah.
And they honored, it started off honoring two of their alumni, which was Michael Piunno and
Scaravelli, who's also on that plaque.
It was Al.
Yeah,
How old was Mike when he died?
19, I think.
Jeez.
Now, the Benedictine story is that the Italian club, they had, when they started it, they had the students search out the yearbooks. And they tried to search out graduates that they would like to kind of honor, you know, as Benedictine alumni.
Mhm.
And so they went through all the yearbooks and stuff, and they came up with two students, which was Mike Piunno and Al Scaravelli, and that's how they picked them. And so the students themselves, the first, I don't know when the club was established, but Mark Franciola, who's the teacher and runs the club, he had the students research it. And so it wasn't like they said, well, you know, the Piunnos or the Scaravellis gave money to the school, so let's honor, you know. It wasn't like that. It was the students found that. Because I went to Cathedral Latin, a competing high school. But now I'm a strong supporter of the festival, you know, to make sure it survives. So he's got no right to do that. You're outnumbered here. Well, wait, you got Anthony though. So anyways, but that's that story. So what were you gonna say about this?
Oh, this was how the scholarship got started, and I'm trying to think how many years it's been going on.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know.
Yeah, matter of fact,
And one year they weren't gonna have it because there was a conflict. And I convinced Mark, I said, it's too important to the school, and
Of course.
because you stop, and so because there was a conflict of the date, and he actually had to move it out of the school because they put something else there. We had it at the old Borelli's, but I convinced Mark to still have it, and he did.
Well, it's a pretty big fundraiser also.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
You were there.
Yeah, yeah.
He was at the last one.
Oh, jeez.
That's my brother Don.
Who let him in? Therese,
Hey, Russ.
don't just let anybody in here.
Oh, God.
Don't just
You're
let
coughing.
anybody in this place. Holy
You're coughing.
cow. Wait, where's my wallet? First, where's my wallet?
I need some more money, that's why I come back.
Oh, God.
Frankie, how you doing?
Oh, good, love you. How are you doing?
Okay, yeah.
Good to see you. Glad you stopped over.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I'm okay.
This is Anthony Granito and Lou Lentine. These are my cousins.
Hi, guys.
Yeah.
Pleasure, pleasure to meet you guys.
Stand here, have a seat, and join us.
We've done,
We
do.
met at
Yeah, we
the
met.
luncheon,
we've done
yeah.
business over the years. I probably still owe money, but that's okay.
Touching a little bit on Benedictine, every year Frank takes out a great ad, and I was just counting here, there's actually 11 relatives and descendants of Mike Granito, Mike Piunno. And
That went to
they
Benedictine.
went to Benedictine or graduated from Benedictine
Yeah.
as well. There's Donato, that'll be his brother, correct?
Yeah.
Frank is also his brother. Vince Granito would be a nephew.
Which is Anthony's brother.
Anthony Granito, another nephew, his brother Michael, his brother Jim. So all 5 boys, yeah, all 5 boys went there. Dan Piunno, my brother-in-law, a great nephew, Al Ferrara and Jack Ferrara.
Yeah.
So it's pretty supportive for the Benedictine school system.
Well, I'll see, my goodness. Yeah.
And some of them graduated.
And how did Cathedral Latin get in the mix?
That's a good
She
question.
was on the other
Well,
side.
my
of the
father
tracks.
went to East Tech,
Uh-huh.
so, and actually, thanks to Anthony, I got a beautiful picture from his high school graduation, but that I'd never seen. But,
Yeah, I'll let you talk about that.
When did you graduate?
66. Yeah.
How did the family react to the death? Any, or did they not talk about it like many families didn't? They just ingested it themselves.
I think that's probably, well, obviously, it was before we were around, you know.
Yeah, but I thought maybe by word of mouth, you know.
I mean, he was always talked about,
Yeah, I think they talked about it.
but Anthony, he's the
My
eldest.
mother was the one living there, like, she had an older sister, but she was the one that, like, Uncle Frank used to call her mom.
They
Because
raised-
once their mother died, my mother kind of like took over, because she
Raising the
lived
family.
with the father and stuff like that. And she didn't, every time it was brought up, she was very sad. But we were never allowed to have a gun in our house when we were little. We couldn't even play cops and robbers. And that affected her that much. She lost a brother. Her brother in the war. So.
Yeah.
I think I came across a picture, I can't find it at the moment. Like most families that I've done some research on, I don't know what they really call it. They always had a living room table, and then behind it there's a hutch of some sort. I have an aunt who always botched up the English and Italian language, and she gave, we knew what she was talking about, but anyways, I guess you call it a linen hutch where they put their
Yeah.
tablecloths and stuff like that. But there's a picture somewhere that I could dig it up where they had a picture of Uncle Mike on there in his military uniform. So again, it's like a little shrine, so to speak.
Yeah.
So I don't think they hid the fact or didn't want to talk about it, but they sure did honor him
They
and
honored,
respected his, that decision. My father-in-law would always go to the cemeteries, which among, I'm sure everybody else's fathers went to the cemetery to pay respect to all the deceased. Till today, myself and my brother-in-law Mike will go the week of Memorial Week to clean off the graves and so forth.
Calvary Cemetery.
Calvary Cemetery.
Russ and I have been there to the grave site.
And it was interesting to know, on my side of the family, I also had an uncle who had passed away and was killed in action. And when I started going to Uncle Mike's grave to clean off his cemetery, as a kid, I used to go to the cemetery as well. And I said, you know what, this is, if I remember correctly, I think my uncle is buried in the same area because he had all the military people. And sure enough, my uncle was just on the other side of that main driveway coming in of that. So it's kind of funny how things fall into place. So 40, 50 years later, you know, I come into the family and yet,
That connection
yeah,
exists.
there's stuff like that. So I get goosebumps on stuff like that
Yeah.
when I hear stuff.
There's a meaning there, isn't
You would think.
It seems like.
Yes. This here is, I never seen one before. This was given to my father-in-law, Frank Piunno, and, which is Mike's younger brother. And in the letters too, Uncle Mike always asked about the family. Your brother, the oldest brother, was basically just born maybe 1 or 2 years ago.
This is born in 41, so.
And Teresa, and a cousin, you always ask about how are the kids, you know? Or you write letters to Aunt Rosie and say, I just got back from church this morning, yada, yada, yada. You know, so they always honored a lot of the religious holidays in church. But this was given to Frank, my father-in-law, who passed it on to my brother-in-law, Mike. And I have never seen one of these before. These are some of the medals that he received, and that's the actual Purple Heart. And if you look on the back of it, it has an engraving of it.
And that's the combat infantryman's badge. Do you know the combat?
Yeah, I'm not familiar, so.
Please
be careful.
The name should be engraved on the back of that Purple Heart.
Yes, please be careful.
If it won't lift up, it's
No,
just
it will.
fine.
Yep. That's unbelievable.
You know, I've seen a Purple Heart at a rummage sale.
Have you really?
Yeah, and it's against the law, you know.
Oh, this is,
to
these are
do that.
priceless.
Yeah,
These are priceless. Wow.
Oh, my
so that was what, 42, he passed away, or
No,
45?
45.
45, so.
April 17th, 45.
What month did he die?
April 17th
In 45?
and 45.
God. In 45.
That's close to the end of the war.
Yeah, like a month later.
Yeah.
Do you have a, go ahead,
He
Anthony.
was my godfather. So before he shipped out, he baptized, you know,
Yeah.
He was your godfather?
Uncle Mike.
Wow, yeah.
Well, thanks for sharing, Nancy.
Yeah.
Very good special.
No, the other one, I didn't see that. Thank you.
This is stamped too,
Tony.
huh?
Oh, okay.
Is that an extra stamp?
Yeah, it's probably cut off one. They say, don't mail your utility bill with that.
Yeah.
What is it?
It's just a US stamp, it's,
And this is the Rhine River Franks,
and that's,
The Ryan, R-I-N or R-O-N?
R-H-I-M-E.
that's Aunt Jerry's handwriting,
Ah,
so I can explain it.
You know, I think both rivers are connected by some Rhine links or something like that, or what do you call them? Locks.
Yeah, the
Somehow,
RH.
I think they're connected.
Okay, yeah.
but he thinks that's our Aunt Jerry's writing that wrote that. Because he's got the military document from the Rhone River.
There's some pictures, this is him over here.
And where's that from?
I'm not too sure if I got the location on that one.
He's the second one there?
He's the first one.
First one.
I can pull those up.
No, they're in the chow line. I think it looks like he's carrying a misket.
Yeah. And it looks like he has a sense of humor, because if you look over here, he's the one with the top hat. I don't know if that was intentional. Regular, what do they call it?
Proper attire?
Proper attire.
That's funny.
Yeah.
There's
And
always
a
a
cigarette.
comedian in the group.
And a cigarette.
Did he have a girl back here?
He was engaged.
He was.
He was engaged. I got this from my mother, directly from my mother. He was engaged.
Do we know who?
I do. My mother gave me.
Can you share that with us?
Hang on, I'll see.
You want her first? I'm not sure if I want to share the
Well,
last
that's
name.
okay,
She
yeah.
probably has relatives. Because they never, well, her first name was Helen, and she lived on the same street. Like, their house was here.
Catty corner.
Right, because I lived on that street for
You lived in
20
that house.
some years of my life.
You lived in that house.
First third of my life, right. He was engaged to this Helen just before. She wanted to get married before he left. And the story that my mother told me is because in case he didn't make it back, she wanted the $10,000 from the government.
Right.
And he broke it off. He says, no, that's not a reason to get married.
Boy, I didn't know it. you know.
So,
And she evidently expressed that to him.
yeah.
Yeah.
And,
No
and my
wonder he
mother,
broke it off. Huh?
and my mother, and he never came back. So,
Yeah.
wow.
Well, we don't want her last name.
No.
No.
And I know because my mother gave me the engagement ring. My mother, Uncle Mike gave my mother the engagement ring. And I received it because it was, my mother said it's gonna go to her first granddaughter, which I was the only son that had a daughter.
Yeah.
Oh,
So, and my daughter has it now.
wow.
Well, did I hear the plaque was in 3 pieces?
Yeah.
Did it break when you were removing it?
Oh, no, no. Yeah, I guess they added on to that plaque. And so it was in 3 pieces, but it was real flimsy.
Yeah.
You know, so that's why we were very careful of moving it. And then we took it right to Gino's jeweler, and I thought maybe he could take like 1/4-inch plywood.
Yeah.
He ended up using 5/8-inch plywood, because
Was
it
that
was so heavy, yeah, it's on the wall out there.
Wow.
It has to weigh 150 pounds.
Oh, my God.
But you'll get a kick out of this picture, let me see.
Oh, it's all
Because
bronze.
when we took it to Gino's, this might be when we picked it up, but we were all standing around, and my brother-in-law Henry Fiorito, oh, where's it at? Let me see. I'll get it here in a minute. He put on the caption, he says, "Where do you want the body?" Because we were all standing around. You gotta see this, it's funny.
While you're looking, Frank, you got it?
Yeah, look, I'll show you first. He says, where do you want the body? You know, because we put it in my trunk, and at the time I had a black Cadillac, which you'll remember.
Yeah.
They're all praying.
We're all standing around.
That's before the Sopranos came on.
Yeah.
Tony, you have my glasses on, or are yours or mine? Those
are yours.
Those are mine? Okay, oh yeah, okay. But is that funny?
That is a right.
Oh, I remember that. It's Bill Fiorito.
Yeah, and Hank and me.
Yeah.
We're all standing around because we put it in the trunk.
Yeah.
That might be when we got it at the church, I don't remember.
Yeah.
But then we brought it
We're all
over to
looking at
Gino's.
it, yeah, that's. oh,
But
that's
Hank sent it
funny.
to me about 3 weeks ago. He came across it, he says, "Where do you want the body?"
Oh, my God. That's a right.
So, but anyway, so that plaque was real flimsy, so we had Gino, reinforce it, and they did a nice job of it, and that's when they made the replica. You have a picture of the replica, right? Yeah. Yeah, this is the plaque.
Right.
Don't
That's
you?
the one in the lobby,
Yeah, you have the replica too, don't you?
somewhere.
Okay, yeah, I don't know, but anyways, yeah, this is the one in the lobby, but we made a replica, but it's, it's rectangular, it's not
Yeah,
the same
it's
shape.
smaller than that, yeah.
Yeah. But John put it in his wall in the basement, so.
Nice, nice.
Cool.
Yeah. Here is a copy of a letter dated May 4th, 1945, from, I guess it's the USO, maybe?
Yeah.
And this,
We probably could have put this stuff.
well, that's,
Hey, Don,
this is
you
the
got-
letter sent to the
You gotta see
family.
this stuff.
Oh, yeah. I got some water if you guys need some.
Oh, yeah, I didn't even offer him anything.
How are you? Good, how you doing?
Watch your wallet, Don. Watch your wallet.
I usually don't bring it, I should have.
Oh, God.
So that's the letter that was sent to the family, indicating their sympathy.
Oh, look at that, wow. Purple heart.
This is the purple heart, I've never seen it before.
Wow.
What year did he,
No, here it
what, he died?
Yeah.
45?
45.
Wow.
But Anthony has a.
April 17, 45. I
Anthony has.
petitioned the government
This
to,
is his purple.
for his records,
That's something.
and only a relative, or he could do it. But I says, I showed my mother's name on, when he went to the service, and, my mother was
Oh, yeah.
acting like his mother.
Yeah,
This is unbelievable.
And, he's my godfather, so it's my mother's definitely, she's not around.
I got more too.
So I eventually got, took me like a
There's
year to
6,
get it,
there should be, yeah, that's good.
but there was a fire in.
Hey,
You Jack Daniels?
I got Jack Daniels. You want some?
The two things they said.
No.
There was a fire in the building, and
oh,
that's,
okay. Oh, yeah, that's what they,
and they sent me a letter saying, apologize,
at least
documents between this
they had
day.
it. Didn't
Yeah,
get
documents
moved.
between this day and this day were caught in a fire. And
That's.
Yeah, right.
But at
A
least
lot of
somebody
the
actually
documents
mentioned
were
it. I
lost.
said,
Okay, you survived.
Were lost because
I've
I
never-
had asked
on the
for
back,
my
I know this
paperwork,
on the back, it has his
and
name.
it was in an area that wasn't near the fire, so I got it.
Where were they?
Records kept
Or?
8214.
it should be,
Cause that's
the letter
interesting
might
too.
be, the letter that I received might be in between those two.
My father was also in World War II, and I had to get up some information. I stopped off at the VA office, and
That, in the front?
I'm not too sure where the records were kept, but they said it was lost in some fire that they had.
Uh-huh.
So luckily, they were able to get a digital copy or,
Oh,
what do you call it, microfiche? or
yeah,
whatever,
yeah,
microfilm.
yeah.
So I don't know where that is being stored at.
Any details on exactly how he got killed?
Yeah, he sold us a lot, he
crossing,
sold us
crossing
cutters
the Rhine River.
and
No, those
folders.
are the only two things.
Dad, you guys see the printer we bought? They're installing it today.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What'd you get?
We got I don't know, it's a Canon inkjet. It's a cut sheet inkjet.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, it's 45 feet long or something like
Yeah,
that.
it's nice, yeah.
Really?
They got smaller ones now.
Now, that's what Tony ran GE's print center
Oh, really?
for 100 years.
Okay. 25.
So he's really, Don doesn't know anything.
I tried to get word from them. I was trying to get their
Right,
statement.
right.
I used to call on them. I tried to get their statement work and all kind of stuff.
He was tough.
Yeah.
Frank, this is the letter from, I guess, the USO, dated May
This
4th,
is
45.
announcing his death.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
It's amazing.
Yeah, records between 1912 and 1959. Were in the fire.
Yeah.
In 73.
Who's it signed by?
The records between,
Robert.
it tells you
This is
the records after
this.
this.
Where's his,
Current issue
Where's
with
this letter at?
this story in there.
Oh, is that right?
That's the paper it's gonna go in.
Oh, it's not going in
The
La
original?
Gazette, it's going in the
Oh,
Chronicle.
no, no, not good,
Original.
yeah, also.
Oh, this is newspaper for veterans.
Right.
My brother Michael has it.
Yeah, he has all the originals, he scanned them, and then, these were Aunt Rosie, Anthony's mother, pretty much the mother of the family.
Right.
And Mike,
She was writing through all this every day, so-
got all the letters, and then he
Can I have this copy?
Oh, yes.
Scanned it. I had a copy of it.
I was in that plane. I wasn't up in the air in it, but I was in the plane.
That's what it was intended.
Well, look how strong he was as a young man hauling that out of the desert by himself.
I know,
you
I know.
That was a great picture.
This is great.
Tony, could you give a brief scenario of your background in B-29 during the Korean War? And what you have done to accomplish the B-29?
I flew on several different types of multi-engine aircraft, but I've always liked the B-29, but I couldn't get assigned to it while I was there in active duty. When I worked at General Electric, one of the guys that was on the staff used to be the police chief in East Cleveland, and he took over security for General Electric there at Neal Park. Ironically, he had a close buddy, and he used to fly on B-29s, and his close buddy was Tennessee Ernie Ford.
Oh, wow.
Tennessee Ernie Ford was coming to Cleveland for a performance at the Inner Circle. I think they called it the Inner Circle.
Yeah.
There, right? And I thought that I'd like to see if I can get these two guys back together again, because we haven't seen each other since the Second War. And I was successful in doing that. We got everybody together, and he introduced me to Ernie Ford and so on. So Pat, his name is Pat O'Malley. Pat O'Malley says, "Hey Ernie," he says, "Tony used to be a flight engineer." And Ernie Ford says, "Boy, we could use you." He says, "Use me? Use me for what?" He says, "Well," he says, "I'm with the Confederate Air Force," and he says, "We need a flight engineer on the B-29. Well, that piqued my interest. So he invited me to come down to see the annual show that they do in October, and I went down there. And I got the bug, and I says, I saw all of these World War II airplanes down there. The sights, the sounds, the smell, I says, I gotta get back involved somehow. So I joined the organization, and I said, I think I would like to try and find another B-29. And so I did a worldwide search where I thought there was some B-29s. Long story short, located one in the middle of the Mojave Desert in California. China Lake Naval Weapons Center was a secret base where they were developing ordnance for the Navy and other military branches. And they had some B-29s and other aircraft there, and they were using them for ground targets. So they were blowing them up slowly but surely. There was one left there, and I tried, and it took me, with all of the political crap that was going on, to try to get this airplane. It took me 12 or 15 years to acquire this airplane, and had to do this with a barter with the Department of the Navy. And they said, I says, well, what do you want? Again, long story short, because there was a lot here that we were discussing. They says, if you can get us a B-25 and restore it to the Jimmy Doolittle configuration, because Jimmy Doolittle was a Navy, I don't know how to put it, but he
led the raid on
He led the
Tokyo.
raid on Tokyo, right?
Right.
Yeah, getting to the age where I'm forgetting words now. Anyway,
What were we talking about again?
yeah, can you give me a B-25? Well, I couldn't find one in this country within my financial reach, but we did locate one in Venezuela. So I purchased the airplane there, we had it dismantled, sent a crew down there, had it dismantled, put it in 2 sea containers, brought it to Florida through Hurricane Andrew, put it on a train, brought it to Cleveland, had it in Wycliffe there while we were starting to restore it. We made that building that we were renting look too good, so they wanted us to either pay more rent or get out. Anyway, we had the plane restored, gave it to the Navy, they gave me the title to the B-29. And that started another, I don't know how many years, I think it was 17 years before we can get that restored. So all in all, it was over 30 years that we spent trying to get that plane restored and back in the air. And that was it.
It flew here, when was it here, about 6
A
months
couple
ago?
of years ago,
Was it, it's been a couple of years?
yeah,
Yeah,
Jeez.
already.
down in Berkeley front.
Yeah,
So you saw it down there, Frank?
I got my hat,
Yeah.
I went through it.
So, and that was the last restorable airframe of a B-29 in the world, so I'm glad we were able to restore it.
Where would they keep them?
That's what Anthony
That's
and I
what
were
I
talking
researched.
about. He did some research on Uncle Mike.
He died in 45, but his
45.
his body didn't get here till 49,
Wow.
So 4 years later,
4 years later.
That's when they officially buried him.
And I'm thinking, how did they actually know?
Yeah,
And there's still, to this day, periodically, coming up with body remains that they're going through DNA and trying to identify the.
I wonder too, I mean, like you say, after 4 years, do they cremate the bodies? You know, I don't know. What they do.
I would think they'd have to do something.
sure.
Even just for space purposes, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, because if it's in a coffin, I would think they would want to bury it, you know? Crazy.
It's amazing that they can do that, though.
Yeah.
What did they do years ago? I didn't know. It was just forgotten. It was done.
A lot of combat vets were buried on the spot and never recovered, you know.
Oh, that's right.
Unless
Yeah.
some civilians
Right.
Right.
would say, hey, you know, the plane crashed, you know, here's where it crashed. Or they're aware of, especially in Belgium, they're very honored they're honorable people, and they took care of graves and notified the military where they were, you know.
Yes.
Thank God there's people like that.
Oh my
You know,
God,
I
yeah.
mean, all the sadness in the world, and it's just terrible today, but thank God somebody had the wherewithal, you know, to, hey, this is,
Right.
Is there anything anyone would like to add to the conversation?
I think I want to get.
Russ, we really didn't
Plaque or flag.
get you here to quote
It's,
Russell.
I'll probably enlarge them and just put it up.
Tell me about actually going there to recover the plaque. What it was like for you.
Well, I remember those days, and Frank Piunno was, you know, the leader of the pack. And it was kind of,
We don't want to lose the plaque.
yeah. And the church was being closed, and once that happens, the diocese takes over the church and all the property. They can do whatever they want with it. And our cause was, you know, Frank had relatives, you know, that passed away, and he wants the plaque for the family. And there was somebody else that wanted the plaque too, because their name was on there also. And it was kind of a friction. And finally, Frank agreed to get a copy made at Giovanni's,
Gino.
Gino's.
Gino.
And he was happy to get it, and he was really pleased. And that kind of settled everything. But that plaque was in the corner of the church as you entered, and you could see it all the time. And that's where all the baptisms were made too.
yeah.
And it was a big event, it really was. And
That's your father. He's a football star.
and you can thank Tony for the B-29, How many millions of dollars did that cost?
It was quite a few, and if we didn't have the help of Boeing and other contributors, we would never have
No,
it.
this is, I think this is our freshman.
Mega millions for sure.
Yeah, this is our freshman.
Took a lot of patience, a lot of,
Yeah.
Is that before they had the face mask?
Yeah, I read where there was quite a few volunteers signed up. And then when some of them saw the extent of the work that had to be done, they backed out. Yeah.
You guys broke their noses.
Well, it was, altogether when we first discovered it, but we had to take it apart to get it out of there. Eventually I made contact with the vice president of Boeing and in Wichita, Kansas, the very plant that built that particular airplane during the Second War. And he said, Tony, if you can get that airplane back here to Wichita, we'll help you get it back in the air. So now I had to figure, how do I get that plane from the desert to Wichita, Kansas? And another effort trying to take it all apart and truck it. But we did.
Crazy.
Well, I thank everyone for their time, and I hope I can do justice to his memory.
Questions and,
Yeah, so you'll send us like a draft and then we can look at it?
If you'd like that, sure, yeah.
Yeah, just make sure, probably.
Make sure everything's correct, yeah.
Send to Frank. Yeah, and we'll review it and then get it right back to you.
Get a business card from you while I'm here today?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And any relevant pictures that you might have,
I'm gonna take them for a walk around too.
I brought in some of my cards with my email on them.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so,
I'll be right back, I'll get a card. What are you kinda looking for? Just.
well, anything you think might be relevant to the story.
I'll send it to you and you can weed out whatever you don't.
I got plenty of cards.
What about when we were in Florida?
Frank?
Mario.
Yeah. I know.
Can I have one of your cards?
Oh, sure, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Did I give you one, Terry?
From the yearbook. That's right there. Thank you for your time and your interest.
Oh, yeah, the previous owner of the paper, was a really great guy. And he passed away, and the new owner, he never, something come on his bucks once in a while, you know, for my contributions. But the new owner pays me $150 a pop. So, I mean, the money's not an incentive for me to do this, you know, I just been doing it a long time for no money, you know,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
that, I tell everybody, when it comes in, it's great, it pays my bar bill.
There is one thing here that I don't know if this is true. On my notes for family tree, it showed that, and I don't want to sound ignorant, which I might, the little bit of personal notes for Mike Piunno, he served under General Patton.
Yeah.
You guys ever read that?
Is that
Wow. So I mean, I don't know how.
I found that.
Patton told a story about himself that this reporter wandered into a Third Army camp one day, and he noticed that all the GIs there had a string on their flag and a fork in the fatigue pocket. So, so he asked his private, he said, well, what's that for? He said, well, that's General Patton's orders, so we remain sanitary, you know, clean our utensils after we eat. And that's the fork there, you know. He said, you know, I can understand that, but what's the string coming on the fly for? He said, well, sir, that's also Patton's orders to be sanitary, so we use the string to take it out when we go to the train. And the reporter says, well, I can understand that, but how do you get it back in? And the private says, well, I don't know about anybody else, sir, but I use the fork.
I don't get it.
You know what?
You wouldn't.
Oh, you went to her parents.
Yeah. I can ask Frank.
He uses the fork to get it in.
I got it.
Your mom's is related to Rinaldi's.
Yes.
You have any of those papers in your car?